Let's let that
Yeah.
do its thing.
Are you doing it on your business page or personal page?
Personal.
Okay, I'm going to share it off.
Yeah.
There.
All right, we're up and running.
I like your background on your Facebook
Oh,
page.
it's I have the green screen blocking the light, and this is the background that I have. I'm sitting on the floor, and it's working just fine. All right, hello everybody. I'm just gonna pull up my screen here, see if everybody's around. We've got a couple more minutes before 1 o'clock Eastern time. You may be wondering, who am I sitting here with? This is my dear friend, Jared Johnson from Utah. And
Yes.
this week, hi Jared, and this week we are kicking off with investment opportunities. For anybody who tuned in last week, I sat down with some agents in Florida to discuss the Florida markets. And I thought that this week could be really unique, especially for those of you who have, number one, maybe you've thought about investing, but you're just not sure what to do. And number two, introduce you to some amazing opportunities all over the country, starting off with Jared and his team who are based in Utah. So It is almost 1 o'clock. Shall we kick this off?
Let's get started. I'm always a prompt guy, so we're let's I think, but it's almost 11. It's 11 right now. Perfect.
There you go.
Here we go.
Right.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Karen. Super excited to, I know we're on different parts of the country, essentially across the country, and we were just talking before this, how unusual it is to see the difference just from state to state, how this whole COVID-19 thing has affected one state to another.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what's going on in Utah, just so the viewers know.
You'll probably see in the background is, like I've got half of my staff here working. Just over the weekend, we took 3 listings and probably 6 new buyers over the weekend. And so we haven't slowed down. The only thing we haven't been able to do is go eat at restaurants up until last weekend. So,
and would you say that a majority of the people that you're listing, are they investment opportunities or are they primary residences?
A little bit of both. I'd say half of them that we're helping our investors right now, and then the other half are they're just looking for their first home or looking to upgrade their home.
Okay.
So it's been about half and half, no matter where we're at economy wise. We usually run about 50% investors, 50%, like normal residential buyers.
Awesome. And where in Utah are you?
So we're based out of Highland, Utah. So a little bit of demographics is we service the Salt Lake County and Utah County. So, and I guess if you refer this to college sports, we service the University of Utah area, and we service BYU area for those that football and stuff like that. But yeah, so those are our service areas, and we're kind of smack dab in the middle of it.
Cool. Okay, awesome. So Jared, I think, sorry, I've just got Facebook going. Okay, so you have an incredible story when it comes to how you got your feet wet in investing, and you run seminars on Investing 101, and I want to give the viewers, as a way to kick off this Monday, this investment week, give us the the short version of that, as much as you want to share. We would love to hear that.
Yeah, so this is the part that excites me the most, especially when we're sharing. We share our classes every Thursday night. Lately, we've had to be sharing them through webinar, but we've been doing this now for about 8 years and teaching this because our story has been something that has been so impactful for us. And the reason why we teach so many people now is because my why has shifted from supporting my family and kind of getting out of debt and providing financial security for myself, but as it's been shifting towards, sharing that same joy that we have received and, the blessings we've received from this, to sharing it and trying to change as many people's lives that we can change through investing in real estate. Because the one question that we always got through our investing is people were listening to our story and listening to and seeing what we're doing. And the number one comment we always got was, I can't wait to do what you guys do someday. And I'm like, well, let me start by sharing with you like where I started. And I think it'll change your mind on like you being able to do what we did, type of thing. So yeah, a little background is I kind of was in the rat race, is what like we like to call it, with everyone else. I went to college. I have a degree in electrical engineering and then a master's degree in business. But through through going to school, I lived like a college graduate while I was in college. So I took out a ton of student loans. I didn't think about what I was doing, and I ended up with a pile of student loan debt. And then my wife just had her, we had our first baby. So we have 5 kids now. So she had her first one. She was staying at home. I just graduated college and we just bought our first home. And it was a very like modest home. I mean, I think our house payment was $600 a month. Like it was a little small 1,000 square foot home. But the thing that we realized though is I was working in all my, putting in the hours, doing everything I thought I could do. The student loan started coming. And then with the house payment, and then my wife being at home with our born baby, we had $100 to our name at the end of every month. And I'm like, man, how in the world did this get to this point? I always was taught that you go to school, invest in your 401k and, build, get the experience and things will work out. And it wasn't working out for us. Well, it didn't work out the way I wanted my life to work out, as in I was riding my bike to work because with that $100 we had to decide how much was going to groceries, how much was going to put gas in the cars, and could we squeeze out anything to go on a date, because we've always committed to ourselves that was a very important thing on a weekly basis, to make sure that we were working on our relationship and not just our family's relationship. And so it got to be very depressing in a sense, because I was like, man, I remember riding my bike home and it was like raining, snow, sleet type of thing. And I was just like, this is not this is not ideal at all. So we decided to, I guess, we always like to say we were sick and tired of being sick and tired of our situation. So I ran into a friend that was buying a second home, and I'm like, man, how are you buying a second home? Like, share me more, talk to me about this. And he opened up my eyes. I remember, he took me out to lunch on our lunch break, and I remember him talking to me about the leverage of what we call house hacking and taking our first home. He's like, do you love your home? I mean, that was our question. I said, well, I love that it's a roof over my head and it's a cute little house, but is it everything you want? Would you be willing to move into something else? I'm like, well, yeah, if I could have a garage. I love working on cars. If I had a little more room, I mean, I'm 6'5", and it's 1,000 square feet, so it looks like 500 square feet to me, type of thing. It just was very small. And so he talked to me about this concept of house hacking, and being that we have the market just crashed, lots of people were out of their houses, so which means there was a lot of potential for rentals. And he said, if you could get renters in your home and buy another home, would you do it? And I said, what else do I got to lose? I mean, I got $100 to my name. I mean, what good is my situation? So I was kind of willing to make an extreme change. So we ended up holding an open house. He taught me about the value of, if you have a home and you have a lease agreement in place on that home, the lender will take up to 75% of that rental value to count towards your mortgage. And so the goal was, if I could exceed that 75% value, it's no longer considered a debt to my name. It's considered an asset. And actually, when we rented that house out, we held an open house just like you would hold an open house for a house that we would sell, but we did it as a rental opportunity. And I was just, in my head, I'm thinking, who's going to rent my house? Or I'm like, you pick out all the flaws, all the everything. And we probably had 50 people show up, and we had probably 12 applications.
Wow.
People were just like begging us for this rental. And I realized right then, like the power I had of actually owning a home that I could rent to somebody else. Because back then in 2008, when people were losing their houses, people still need places to live. And so we ended up finding a good renter, and we ended up actually renting it out, which I felt was still undervalued for what people were willing to pay me. But I didn't want to, I wanted it to be a good win-win. Is we ended up walking away with taking my $100 a month of net income at the end of my job to being able to have an extra $500 of cash coming into our bank every month. And I was like, holy smokes. I mean,
that's amazing.
I went from having $100 a month to having $600 a month. I mean, during that time, it was like I just won the lottery. Like, I'm not sharing a dinner with you tonight, Amy. We're buying our own meals, But so that was a kind of we always joke about that now, because still to this day, I hate sharing. I've done enough sharing. I'm done. But what we realized is, once we got that rental in place, we just kind of set a move-in date for 30 days later. There's lots of homes out there to look for. We found another home that we were able to rent. We love the fixer-uppers, so we found it. We bought it undervalued, again, keeping aware of, okay, if our house payment's this much, and I know I can get this much in rental, I was kind of calculating in my head as I was looking for that home, what was my cash flow going to be as we move to the next house, to the next house, to the next house. Because our attitude is, we have a little newborn. He doesn't care where he lives. We didn't care where we lived at the time. So why don't we accumulate as much of these homes as we possibly can, as much as these lenders would allow us to get our next primary residence. Because you can buy a primary residence for, in Utah, they have 0% down programs right now. So there's two loan programs where you can buy a home with zero money out of your pocket. Or if you go FHA, it's 3.5%, or conventional is 5%. So if we can use our tax return every year, which was about, we were giving the government an interest-free loan of about $5,000 to $6,000. So we calculated every tax return season, we would buy a new home, because that $5,000 to $6,000 would be that 3.5% we needed to buy our next home that we moved into. And so we really started. So that's when I love that story, because what it does, it tells everybody that says, someday I'll do what you do, is we had $100 to our name, and we did what we did. And just today, circumstances have changed a little bit, as in our portfolio shifting. But as of last year, we had 74 doors under our name.
That's amazing.
And that was in a 10-year period. And we ended up selling off a lot of those homes to be able to move to that next step of, my wife just closed, developed from the ground up a 300-unit apartment complex that we invest in. And then we also have been trying to pick up storage facilities because of the amazing cash flow opportunities in those. So we've we're able to pick up and be owners in two storage facilities. And I think we got 5 right now in development. So we kind of been shifting our portfolio, but
Yeah.
we started out with single family homes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the easier way. Now, when you bought them and you said that they were fixer uppers, how much money were you putting into each of these homes?
So I am a little handier. So I've got it down to where I didn't do my kitchens. I would do all the renovate, like gutting. I would gut the houses. Carpet, we learned that renters will never take care of your house like you take care of it. You can get good renters, but it's still not their home, and that's okay. I don't expect them to live the way I live because we all live differently. But so I always learned that in a rental property, it's okay not to do the $50 a square yard carpet, but to put in the $15 to $20 a yard carpet, because I might have to replace it in a year or two. And so my philosophy is on single family is stick to 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. I stick to starter homes. And the reason I stick to starter homes is because everybody's always looking to buy their first home. And when the going gets tough, people are always looking to downsize sometime in their life. And so sticking with that 3-bedroom, 2-bath home allows me to almost safeguard my properties within the downfalls in the economy.
Yeah.
The other rule of thumb I always use is 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and buy them under 15% value. If I can buy them under 15% value, I can usually weather most. There hasn't been a storm I haven't been able to weather.
Okay. Now, but you're a real estate broker, so you know what the values are. So for somebody who's brand new to this, what are the qualities that you're looking for, that buyers should be looking for in an agent or somebody to help them figure out what the opportunities are and if they're getting that 15% under?
Yeah, so good question is, and actually we had this experience. One of our buyers that we picked up over the weekend actually came from our realtor.com lead, and he said, "Hey, I want to get started in investing. I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've been on all these forums and I've been running these calculations, and I have a couple different agents that I'm kind of vetting right now." And the question we always give to people is has any of those agents sat down to give you a buyer's consultation to really get to know your situation and to help you with your portfolio? And he's like, no, nobody's ever asked me to do that. They want to show me the houses. And I said, we want to show you houses too, but if we can get a full picture of what your situation is and how we can help fit that game plan into you personally, I said, we'll be able to set you up to success a lot faster versus just sell you a house. Because if you want to be an investor, if you want to get into this, had a great portfolio, he had a good job, single guy, no debts. And so he had a lot of opportunity, but instead of just selling him a home, that he thinks will work, and he'll probably either struggle or make it happen, or, who knows what would happen, is let's get you set up with the understanding and knowledge of what this house looks like and how it looks like step 2, 3, 4, and 5 down the road. And so he was super grateful for it, and actually had one of my agents meeting him at 1:00 to show him 4 potential listings. So
great. And
yes.
when you
as an agent, yeah. Sorry, Karen.
No. So you're saying as an agent, they really need to understand investing and the big picture of a portfolio. Is this buyer that you met somebody from out of the state, out of town?
So he's actually local here in Utah. And yeah, we actually have about, I would say 25% of who we help is out of state buyers. A lot of people are looking for those states that have the investment opportunity, because the investment opportunity might not be in your state, whether it be because maybe rent control was just instituted and it's killing the rental market, or it's just like New York is, who knows when we can get back to normal life type of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
But people are still very excited to get their money working for them instead of just sticking their head in the sand. They're like, look, I can't wait for life to, get started. I've got to, and I like that because it's our decision on what we do with our lives. It's our decision on how we move it forward. And within the circumstances we're dealing with, we have a choice to make. So
and the circumstances, I mean, at least in New York, I know that the Department of State passed new laws about how much a broker can charge, who has to pay the broker, and that law, which we're fighting it now, but states that the owner has to pay the broker. So now the owner has to figure out, okay, how much is that going to cost me, right? And that is 1 month rent, right? And then you've got the other laws that are very pro-tenant, which makes it even less attractive for a landlord. Now, on top of that, we've obviously have all of our monthlies, and those are incredibly high. And, I always tell people, like, the best investments, which are really hard to find, are the ones with the lowest monthlies. And, ideally, if you could pay cash, like, you at least, it's really hard just to cover your expenses. Let's put it that way with the rent.
Yeah. And I'll show you a couple of slides. Like here in Utah, it's actually they're very pro landlord friendly. Okay. So meaning that if you've got your act together, and I personally use a property manager because it's too much for me to manage properties versus my real estate business and stuff. But my property manager has it in order to the point where, I mean, he could evict somebody within 15 days of not paying rent. So typically 30 days is about normal. And I think sometimes based on the circumstance, I'm not here to just, rent people, you don't pay your rent, kick them out. But like, I like to give them the benefit of the doubt. But if it's like a very perpetual thing and they're just never on time and it's constantly catch up, the reality is I could have them out of there in 15 days of not paying their mortgage. I mean, paying their rent.
Paying their rent. And this is like, when it comes to finding property managers, how common is that in your market? Like, are these big management firms, smaller? Like, what should people be looking for in a management company?
So when we look for and we have 3 of them that we always recommend to our investors, because I remember the weight that was lifted off my shoulder when I had 4 properties under my belt and I was chasing rents, and I was not bringing in the right people because I was basing it more off of my gut feeling, which wasn't right, versus like doing my homework, doing the credit checks, doing the background checks, everything that seemed overwhelming to me at the time, and then chasing their rents. And I'll tell everybody is, when you're a landlord and you're managing those properties, you will hear every story under the book, and probably then some, on why they can't pay rent. And being a soft-hearted kind of guy, I kind of got suckered in a lot for believing this stuff. So it was a weight off of my shoulder when I had that property manager. And like, we always, when I look for them, I want to make sure that they can change with me. I want to make sure that there's plans in place that allow me to still have control over my properties and not feel like I've been taken advantage of. So I always have monthly communication with them on how things are going. Our property manager does quarterly inspections on the house, and those inspections include taking pictures of the home, writing reports if they've noticed anything different about the house, and then talking to us about it. If it's like holes and stuff, they will tell us, say, hey, we talked to them about this hole, we gave them a price, so it has to be fixed by next week type of thing, or we're going to charge them to fix it ourselves. And so they have there's checks and balances in place to where I know what's going on with my home. And as I hit a certain point of homes, The typical property manager charges about 10% to rent a property. So if it's a $1,600 a month rental, they'll charge $160. And he manages all the marketing, all the evictions, all the, just everything, complete hands-off approach. I have homes
Sounds
that
like
I
a
bought
good deal, really good
6 years
deal.
ago yeah, for hundreds, yeah. I have homes 6 years ago that I haven't even seen. I haven't yet to lay foot in the home or drive past it because I buy the home and I hand it over to them and they take over from there.
So if
So
somebody
for
doesn't have,
$160, it's like,
yeah. So if somebody
it's a
doesn't
good
have
deal.
that relationship yet and they're just starting out, we've got sight unseen. You've got, your agent is showing, I don't know, 4 homes today. Like, is that, I guess, how should the beginner be looking at this? What should they be looking for? Should they be seeing everything?
As in like the homes and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
okay, like in this situation, I'll go back to this gentleman that reached out to us that we finished up a buyer consultation for. Is I got him in touch with one of our agents. We heard his story. We heard his why. We kind of broke down his pre-qualification, as in like his lender was working on his pre-qualification, but like in our heads, we needed to know what is those qualifications that he needs, like to be able to buy a home. Where is his debts at? How much money is he bringing in? So we can kind of do a rough pre-qualification. We were able to then take his situation, what he's comfortable with, and what he's like, where he wants to be buying, and then then for us, that's where we come in. We're meeting with him at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and my agent was able to pull up 5 homes that fit within his criteria, that will fit within cash flowing, and also be invest in an area where they're undervalued, whether the listing agent undervalued them or if it's just an off-market property. It's an undervalued home that will cash flow and is in an area that has good growth year over year. And then so that's our job, is to help, and that's where I think the value of a good agent that knows what they're doing comes into play, because it allows them to trust us to help them in their investment portfolio, because a lot of people they want to do it, but they just don't know where to start, or they don't know how to start. And there's so many books and there's so much help out there, and everybody wants something for it. And our philosophy at Infinite Real Estate Group is look, I've been there, if in your situation, I've been there probably financially or something. And if you have that hunger, if you have the fight to want to change what your portfolio, like your financial situation looks like, I mean, I believe in serving. And when you serve others, it always pays itself back one way or another. And if I can serve somebody, and in the real estate world, I get paid on the back end by the seller's agent. Right. And so if I can serve them, help them, and grow, and the more I can help them see their potential, the more homes they're going to be buying from me.
For sure.
And so it's just not a one and done type of customer. It's like, we have a client that is on his 3rd home this year, and it's only May. And he's just like, when can we get the next one? When can we get the next one? Or like, my brother wants to get involved in this, so can he partner with me? Can we go buy another home? Like, so they're seeing the potential and they're seeing the excitement, and we're just guiding them through that path.
Right. Now, let's say that you have a group, right? So maybe it's a family of, and each person has $100,000, right? And I mean, for that price, you're probably still talking single family homes, but like, what would a good budget, at least in your market, be for, let's just say, a commercial building, multifamily units, right? Like I guess, that's one question. And also, like, if you're just starting out, would you start with a multifamily home and, we were talking a little bit about this yesterday with a rental unit or even a room within the home to rent
Yeah,
out. Talk about that.
yeah. If you don't mind, I can share my screen with you here. Let me
Please,
show
yes.
you. This is actually a home we're going to show this gentleman. So let me share this screen with you.
And by the
And
way, if anybody has any
okay,
questions, please post them below.
yes. Okay, so this one here is in West Valley City. It's listed at 341,000. It is a 5-bedroom, 3-bath home. It's on a 1/3 acre and it's almost 2,300 square feet. So a little different than New York um, when it comes to property value and home sizes and stuff. But so this one's listed at 341, and this one has what we call a mother-in-law apartment, which means it has a basement. In Utah, we have basements in our house. Some, I know it's depending on where you live in the country, basements aren't heard of. But here, it has a separate basement entrance, and they've put a kitchen and laundry room down there. So if you look at this house, I mean, as all the realtors watching are probably like, oh my goodness, look at the pictures on this. They're not good. But for us, it's an undervalued home. And I know it's an undervalued home because I know that the agent hasn't taken just by looking at pictures is a huge red flag for me to know that just the listing is not like, it could be better.
Well, we won't tell him that.
no, we won't, because we love these. But here's, obviously, let's take, this guy's buying the home for himself. So if we just did like a 5%, his mortgage is going to be roughly about $1,600 a month with taxes and insurance included. But it's a 3-bedroom up, 2-bedroom down. Right now, he's renting the upstairs for $1,440 a month, and he's renting the basement for $1,000 a month. I know that that's undervalued, and that's another thing why a good agent will help you out with. Is you can't find a 2-bedroom apartment right now in Salt Lake for probably less than $1,600 a month. So this guy's like, man, I don't even mind living in the basement, and then I'll rent out the other room in the basement because I'm a single guy, and maybe one of my friends wants to rent a room for $500.
Right.
So we're talking about renting this upstairs out for $1,600 a month, which is going to cover his mortgage. While he's living in the home, he's going to rent out the other room in the basement for $500 a month. Plus he's going to live in the other one. So now this guy has got, while he's living in his house, he's now making $500 a month cash flow off of his property. Once he moves out and moves to the next home, the potential is going to be huge, because I would say raising this up to $1,200 a month is really reasonable. So off of one house, he'll be cash flowing $1,200 a month on it, which
that's amazing.
And one thing I wanted to kind of show you about that is $1,200 a month is very exciting, and it's life-changing for just about anybody to have $1,200 a month passive income. But one thing that he didn't even think about, and nobody thought to even talk to him about, was the value of that home year over year. And the good rule of thumb is real estate doubles usually every 15 years. But right now, Utah is 4th in the nation for home value appreciation. And right now we're sitting about, as a whole, 8.5 to 9% growth rate year over year for the last 5 years in Utah, which is incredible. And number 2, when it comes to being a smart asset for home ownership. But if you take a home for $340,000 and you're growing at an 8.5, 9% year over year, you're averaging roughly about $30,000 a year of growth of equity in that home, on top of that cash flow. So, and that's one thing he didn't even think about. I said, 5 years later of whatever cash flow you're getting is great, but the real money is being made, 5 years later when you've got $150,000 of net worth that you never had before.
Yeah. All like by just either living in something or renting out a room in something. Now, how does this, like, what happens when he wants to go buy home number 2? How does the bank see this, considering that, he's going to have some other occupants? He will have a lease, but only a lease on part of it, right?
Correct. And that's the tricky part is because being that it's not a legalized duplex, it's considered a mother-in-law apartment. He will have, remember, they'll only be able to offset 75% of that rent. So he'll only be able to take one of those rentals. I mean, either the top or the bottom. But if we can get that rented out for $1,600 a month, he'll essentially break even, or if not, he might be in debt compared to his debt to income ratio, maybe $100 or something.
Oh, that's not bad.
But yeah, it's the offset it's still a win for him. If he chose to rent out the whole house and could get like maybe $1,900 or $2,000 a month, then they will take 75% of that, and it would be more like a $300 or $400 a month net versus debt.
Got it. Okay. Somebody asked, I have a friend who's a real estate agent, and he has a client who's never bought a home and is considering an investment property or fixer-upper for his first home, using his 401k savings to do so. Now, obviously, you're not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial advisor, but sometimes you wear the hat of,
Yeah, guide them in the right direction and stuff. Yes.
What would you say to somebody in this situation?
I think it's a great thing to do. I personally don't enjoy the stock market because it's out of my control in a sense. And I know right now there are some great opportunities within borrowing your 401k and leveraging that money. So my attitude is, if we can take that money out and it's all about the numbers. We don't want to frivolously buy a home and assume it's going to increase in value. Never trust an agent that says, yes, this is a good value. You want me to write an offer? Where's let's find the right home. Let's make sure it cash flows. Let's make sure that it's in a growth area. Let's make sure that that it pencils on paper. My attitude is, and I think Warren Buffett said this, is if it's a good deal today, it's a good deal. If it pencils, it doesn't matter what other people say. And so if it pencils on paper and we can show the cash flow and we can show the value, it's worth taking out the loan for. On the same instances as I always have a HELOC loan on my property, my personal residence. And the reason I always have that HELOC available is in case there's ever a deal that pops up that I need to act fast to make that house move. So it's the same concept. I'm borrowing the money and then paying it back. And so I strongly recommend it if you have the money in there to play with. And right now it's just the stock market's kind of depressing to even watch. It's hard to even look at that for your numbers from this stock market. But if you have it in there and you have it available and it makes sense, I think it's a great opportunity.
So a question based on this question, and just in your experience, you're a handy guy, right? But some people, probably myself included, could get taken for a walk from the vendors, like the contractors and things like that. So you try the best you can with a fixer-upper to factor in what it would cost to fix it up, right? But so say, the average person does have to put some money in, and maybe they can't get it quite as undervalued as they would like. How long should somebody expect to hold it in order to start to see that cash flow, right? Because it's sitting not, unoccupied for however long, and it's just eating away at your cash.
Yeah. And so that's I mean, I guess that's the benefit of working with somebody that knows if they know the investments and they know like how to find the right properties. Is I personally, the 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 worse off the house is, the better I like it, because it's just
Mhm.
I love a hoarder's house that
But
a
you're
never been enough
handy.
house or whatever it is. It's like, sure, but I don't actually do anything anymore. And the reason I don't is because I've over the years I have a whole Rolodex full of contractors that I know and trust. They're going to be within budget, they're going to be within their time frame, and they know how fast that they know that this is a house that is just bleeding money until they can get it fixed for me and up
Mhm.
and running. So I guess that's the benefit. If where whatever state you're doing your investments in, is vet those realtors and make sure they know what they're talking about with it. Because I have a guy that he will, if I can just give him enough notice, like 2 hour notice type of thing, he will be at the house with me, or one of his employees will be there with me. They will have as a bid by the end of the day of, look, this is what it's going to take to get in and get this house. And these guys, I mean, do incredible work, and I know they're going to come in at a value that is not going to break my bank. And
Mhm.
because they know with me, if they can treat me right, they know that we bring them so much business
Totally.
that
Yeah.
it's like guaranteed work for them. They can stay busy by just working with our team. And
Yeah.
if that's the, and so I guess, and most, and I know you're talking with several other like high powered agents that do
Mm.
investments across the country. I guarantee you every single one of them are going to have like, oh yeah, if we need that plumbing looked at, let me call this guy over here. Like they
Right.
will know who to get in contact with.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Cool.
and so I think, I know I'm sound like a broken record, but that is the value of a rock
Amazing.
star agent.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the difference between an agent versus somebody that can go in there and kick butt.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit more time to talk about your market and some other opportunities there if you'd like to share.
Yeah. Yeah. So based off of those, and here's, like I said, we're not a crystal ball here, but we love to base our opinions and where we're headed in Utah just based off of facts. Because we can't control the unknown. But
Mhm.
if we're going back to this slide here where we're talking about, is it a good time to buy? If you could get that rate of return, and some of these areas within Utah, and specifically within a radius of what we call Silicon Slopes. And what it is it's kind of a knockoff from Silicon Valley.
Mhm.
That's where all the tech companies are just like, they were growing like crazy. But now in California, you can't buy a 1 bedroom, 1 bath in San Jose for less than probably 1 million, 2 million 5.
Mhm.
So but what the tech companies are seeing, there's a lot of value in moving to Utah because, for one, they don't have to pay their employees as much, and they still get a good value, and the employees are happy. They're still, when I say they don't have to pay them as much, they still get paid very well, but the
Mhm.
cost of living versus what they're paying creates a better environment for their employees to thrive. And so
Mhm.
there's a lot of companies moving into this Silicon Slope area, and that's where we have our office.
Mhm.
It's nice that we kind of, our companies like molding around this tech
Yeah.
industry.
So it's
But
mostly tech that's moving there?
a lot of tech, yes.
Okay.
I kind of we kind of rank right up there with, I believe, Baltimore is
Mhm.
in the same situation.
Mhm.
A lot of tech companies like Adobe's on their third phase of their big corporate office. We've got
Mhm.
Oracle. For those that are into like the essential oils and stuff, we are the home of doTERRA and Young Living. So like the lavender oils and stuff are all done here in Utah. And so those two, doTERRA and Young Living, their headquarters are all right in the Silicon Valley. We
Mhm.
got IM Flash. They do all the memory for our phones and everything. Everything is
Mm.
all right on this hillside. And I think right now, just in this Utah Valley area, they said there's about 1,000 people a month moving into Utah
Wow.
because of jobs.
And you
And
think that
so
that'll
there's a
continue considering the current circumstances?
yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, because the right our job. I mean, we have seen a huge hit when it comes to job losses, but a lot of them have been based around non-essential
Mhm.
industries that are now picking back up and getting back to work. But
Mhm.
the tech companies have been thriving still. We have incredible healthcare systems here with Hunter Cancer Institute, some of the best primary, like children's hospitals. So there's
Mhm.
a lot of stuff that is and exciting things that are happening here in Utah that have created some unique growth opportunities and investment opportunities.
Yeah. I love that.
So this is kind of something that I use Rent Cafe a lot because you can kind of see rentals just in these are four major cities in Utah. And just based off of the last 5 years, you can see the rent change over the last 5 years in these cities within Utah. So, like, I mean,
Mhm.
41% rate a rental increase over the last 5 years is insane. So,
Yeah.
something that they were paying $1,000 a month for is now almost $1,800 a month of rent. Yeah, 31%, 28%, and 25%. So it's value that, like, these are numbers that just you can't deny, and you can't, like, to me they're a good base to grow off of
Right.
and to help. When it comes to like bigger investments and stuff, the one thing that I guess is unique about us at Infinite Real Estate Group is we have two sides of our company. We have a residential side where we focus a lot on teaching about real estate. We help all the buyers and sellers list and buy homes, but like I said at the beginning, 50% of our business is investors,
Mhm.
and we help a lot of investors because of our classes. But my wife, Amy Johnson, has another side of the company, which is Salt, Salt Capital, and she deals with all large developments, multifamilies, storage facilities. Like I said, we just closed. We're about ready to break ground next month on a 300 unit apartment complex
Wow.
in Spokane, Washington. So we do these all over the western area. So Spokane, Washington, that was a $20 million project that she raised. We have, I think, 5 or 6 storage facilities being developed right now and bought, and then we have 2 large townhome developments and city development planning. So there's something for everybody.
Mhm.
And I wanted to, you made that comment about, maybe, they have like a couple $100,000 and maybe like a single family is the best option. The reality is if you could have a couple $100,000, like our last storage facility, we needed $600,000 to take down the loan. We ended up bringing in 3 parties. We ended up bringing in two brothers that each had a chunk of money, and then we brought in a chunk of money. But between all 3 of us, we were able to split up 50% ownership of a storage facility. So that each person owns. Me and Amy took a smaller percentage, like 5 or 8% or something. But then these 2 brothers took about 20% each of the storage facility. The cool thing about it doesn't sound exciting. They each had a couple 100,000, but when you're talking 20% of a $5 million project, your net worth shot up extremely high compared to a
Yeah.
single family. And
Yeah.
the cool thing about storage is across the nation. It's a 92% success rate business wise. And our storage facilities will usually bring in about $30,000 to $60,000 of cash every month. So the
How
cash
much
flow
did you
is
just say?
awesome.
How much?
30 to 60. Yeah, 30 to 60. People love storing garbage. It's incredible.
Wait, so
But
then, like, let's just say on that, on $100,000 investment, what kind of
yeah,
percentage are you estimating at the end of for the year?
yeah, usually about $100,000. You'll probably roughly be around 5-10% ownership, but let's just say it's a $40,000 net, and you're a 5% ownership in that. You're bringing in $2,000 a month of cash flow. So $24,000 a year, just off of that ownership, not including. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with commercial buildings. They don't abide by the same rules as residential.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to qualifying and the creativity, and that's where Amy's skills come in, is being able to creatively purchase a home. I mean, to purchase a project. I mean, the bank doesn't care where the money comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Like in residential, you have to have it seasoned for 3 months, and there's a process involved. But with the commercial, as long as the money's there at closing, they don't care where it came from.
Right.
So it's a little different story when it comes to, and then you can build in a lot of opportunity when it comes to, example, we just bought a new real estate company, a building that
Mm-hmm.
we're in the middle of closing for. We asked for a rent back, what they call, can't remember the word. Amy, help me out here. She's in her own world. Never mind. But anyways, we asked the owner of the building to assume a carry. We asked him to carry back 10% of the value of what we're buying it for, which means we're going to have our mortgage plus we're going to have a 10% carry back that we pay to that owner. But the reason we did that is because you need 10% down to buy a commercial property. Well, if we can have the owner do that carry back and we pay him a monthly payment for that, we just purchased this whole commercial building for no money out of our pocket.
Okay.
And so there's so much creativity you can do if you have the right person to help you out with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Amy's phenomenal from that commercial standpoint.
Well, I'll call Amy a little later, and maybe we could do another round of these calls. If you want,
it's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
If you want, I don't know when your next presentation is, but if you want to throw it in the chat, I'll throw it onto the Facebook pages. Because I mean,
awesome.
Yeah, I would love to. I think that there's obviously some amazing opportunities here. And on top of that, you clearly know what you're talking about. So I think that, a lot of my New York, specifically, a lot of my New York clients are probably thinking like, I don't qualify anymore to purchase a co-op because they want to see a certain amount of assets in the bank and reserves. And if they don't have that, like, then is that it? Right? I think no. I think you just have to get creative. You can absolutely buy a home this year. It might not be your home and your primary residence, but you can be outdoing the market. Absolutely. You are. So
100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I 100% agree with that.
I love it. Cool.
So yeah, I will, I'll post that in there.
Okay.
And like I said, we do them every Thursday evening. And yeah, it's something we are passionate about, and that's kind of our why in driving business is. I'll just kind of leave you with this: is that like a lot of people ask us, why do you keep doing what you're doing? If you have this portfolio and you have this financial coming in, why do you keep teaching others? Like, why do you need to work? And for us, we realized once the money started coming in, and that was our why. We didn't have a game plan of what we were doing with that money other than we thought it would make us happier. But then once we realized that it actually created more contention having all the money without a game plan behind the money, that it was probably the worst time in our marriage and, you know, our family and stuff, because there was no plan behind it.
Mhm.
And nothing brings me and our team more joy than being able to see others have the same success that we do. And I think that's just is it being, you know, a part of humanity, like being a part of your neighbors and your communities and your family and friends is, I mean, that's what life's all about, is helping other people and seeing other people succeed and sharing your joy with them. And so
Mhm.
if we can, that's kind of that's our why is, man, if we can help it, I'd love to just see how many people we can help change their financial future.
Well,
Because it's a good thing once you,
I've tagged a bunch of people, so I will definitely be making this video available later on. And I mean, I would love to help market your shows, your
I appreciate that.
for your seminars as well. So
Thank you.
yeah, that's awesome. So thank you, Jared, so
Yeah.
much for joining me today and for kicking off this week. I think this definitely brings a lot of clarity for anybody who has never done it before, who's never talked about it before. This was a great way to start off. And Utah, you know, it doesn't suck. Salt Lake City, yeah, I've been there. You got some great
It'll
skiing.
surprise you.
I know, yeah. It's and I think
Tons
for
of national parks.
yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. Utah is incredible. And if you haven't been out here, let's look at some investment properties and let's show you the scenery out here, because it is an incredible place.
You might get some people like saying like, I think I could live here instead of just own property here. So awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. We will have this available a little bit later on YouTube, still available on my Facebook page. I know Jared's sharing it too. So as always, if you have any questions, let us know. Would love to be your global real estate connectors. We are both real estate connectors. In many ways.
Thanks for having me, Karen, and I really appreciate being on and kicking it off. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
See you later. Bye.